Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 2020 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray Coupe. Now this is part of the 8th generation Corvette, dubbed the C8, that was unveiled in mid-2019 and entered production in early 2020. And it's only the second car from this decade that we have on this game so far, joining the Koenigsegg Jesko. And yeah, this is a major overhaul for the Corvette. Every other Corvette before this has had a front-engine rear-wheel drive layout, whereas this is now rear-wheel drive mid-engine layout, meaning that not only has the dynamics of the car changed over previous generations, but also the looks have radically changed, which used to be, you know, for long front bonnet and short rear tail, whereas now it's a lot more Ferrari looking than previous Corvettes. As you can see, major difference over the previous generation, which again, like I said, had a long front bonnet and a short rear tail, whereas this is, yeah, like I said, a far more European design on the go. And yeah, this version is equipped with the Z51 performance package, which for a mere $5,000 extra adds a electronics limited slip differential, firmer suspension, a rear spoiler, larger Brembo brakes, and 5 extra horsepower and 5 extra pounds-feet of torque from a sport exhaust system. Whereas the car itself is priced around $75,000 to around $80,000. Maybe it gets to more than that when you add on delivery charges and all that lot. But yeah, regardless, this is far cheaper than the cheapest, say, Ferrari. Like I said, this looks like a Ferrari, and so it's natural to compare it against that company, and yet it's far cheaper than the cheapest Ferrari on the go, the likes of a Ferrari Portofino, which has more power and more torque than this, but actually weighs more than this, and that is actually a front-engine car as well, whereas this is mid-engine, so it's a little bit better balanced. It's got 60% weight at the back and 40% at the front, which is yeah, not something that's ever been the case for other Corvettes. The previous Corvette ZR1, for instance, from 2019 was bang on 50-50 weight distribution, but I get the feeling that this car has been set up to manage its weight distribution in that way. Interior wise, well, it's a far more advanced inside than previous Corvettes, and yeah, it's nicely laid out. Everything's really easy to get to when you're on the driver's side, and yeah, it looks pretty comfortable for the passenger as well. But this car is easily far less practical than previous Corvettes, because now it has the engine in the middle. It's only got a measly little boot at the front, which is really not going to be good for very much at all. And yeah, at the rear it's got not very much of room either, because yeah, most Corvettes used to open up like this, but they had, because obviously they had no engine, they had a vast rear cabin to store things. So yeah, this is sadly not got that same kind of practicality on the go, but what it does have is a really rather good engine. It's an updated version of the base engine from the previous generation, and it now has 495 horsepower and 469 pounds-feet of torque from a 6.2 litre V8 engine, which is all very nice. And yeah, no doubt you'll get more powerful versions with superchargers and the like added later down the line, with like the Z06 or the ZR1, and yeah, get even more power out of this car. And yeah, I have no doubt that this car will be able to handle all of that extra power, because even without the Z51 package, this is a great handling car. And with that package, you got those brakes which will bring you to a dead stop in no time at all, helped again by the fact it only weighs 3,577 pounds, which is not very much, and far lighter than the Portofino, for instance. And yeah, that suspension and all the aerodynamic engineering that has gone into this to keep the car fixed to the ground are all going to work extremely well to keep this car, yeah, firmly planted and well in control. But yeah, not just outside of the practicality, but this car is also the first Corvette outside of a couple of other ones, I think one from the early 50s and one from the 80s, to not have a manual gearbox as an option. And I understand why. People really do prefer these automatic gearboxes, and they are generally faster than manual transmissions, but it would have been nice to have that as an option, especially since some people do prefer them, and I can see why. But yeah, that is no longer an option, and it's unlikely to ever be again, to be honest. But yeah, nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see what this radically new Corvette can do. So because it has a lightning fast dual clutch gearbox, there's acceleration aplenty with this car. And yeah, the engine also sounds fairly good as well. It's not limited by any turbochargers or anything like that, which is a is fine by me. It's yeah, something that has been more prevalent in Europe and Asia, having only turbocharged engines, but it's nice to have an actually aspirated V8 on the go. It's only really the likes of Lexus that are doing such things nowadays. So yeah, I'll let you listen to the engine for a bit and we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, fairly good sounding engine. Sorry I hit the lip there of that wall that stopped us dead, but I didn't see it. But yeah, regardless, this is still a really rather good sounding engine on this car, and yeah, handling wise it's really nice. It's, yeah, easily one of the more easy to drive Corvettes on the go. It's far more forgiving than previous Corvettes. The ZR1 from the prior generation, for instance, was a very nervous and twitchy kind of car, but then again it didn't have nearly 800 horsepower, so that's no surprise. But yeah, this is yeah, brilliant to handle, and yeah, offers up plenty of fun to drive around corners in, either seriously or trying to have fun. And yeah, it's easy to bring it back under control, and yeah, make sure you're not going to bin it into a tree. Also helped by the fact that it has those really rather nice brakes on the go from the Z51 package, but no doubt that the standard brakes are still fairly good as well. You certainly wouldn't want a bad brakes on a car that's as quick as this. As yeah, it can do 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, 0 to 107.114 seconds, and going to a top speed of 194 miles an hour. Now the Portofino with extra horsepower and more torque than this is quicker at the top end, as it will get up to 200 miles an hour. But it's absolutely licked in terms of acceleration, because that can only do 0 to 60 in 3.313 seconds. So yeah, more than half a second slower to 60 than this, and it would do 0 to 100 in 7.415 seconds. So yeah, talking nearly well, 0.3 of a second or thereabouts slower to 100, which I know isn't a great deal of time, but considering that Portofino costs well over $200,000 and this doesn't even cost half that, then you have to say that Corvette, well, the Chevrolet has really done their yeah, a genius amount of work on this car, especially considering it's their first, well, GM's first mid-engine rear-wheel drive car since the Pontiac Fiero, which was discontinued in 1988. So yeah, they've done a bang-up job with their first proper mid-engine sports car / supercar, to be honest. And yeah, outside of my issues with the practicality and the lack of a manual gearbox, I do have some issue with the fact that this car now has lost a fair bit of its identity. It was always Corvettes were one of the few front-engine, rear-wheel drive, high-powered sports cars, supercars going, and now they're gone. It's only really Aston Martin that have any skin in that game anymore. So yeah, I don't like the fact it's lost a fair bit of identity going the go, because outside of its V8 now, it really could easily be mistaken for a Ferrari or say an ATS GT or something like that, and that's a bit of a shame, because yeah, Corvettes have always been a bit of a outrider when it comes to sports cars and supercars. They've always been a cut price European supercar, but been able to manage or even supersede their European rivals with front engine rear wheel drive layout, whereas now it does feel a bit like they're copying their European competitors, which is yeah, a little bit disappointing as far as I'm concerned. There's no doubt this is a very good sports car, and yeah, it's no doubt going to sell like hot turkeys, quite frankly, because yeah, this is no doubt going to get everybody wanted to side with Corvettes now that it's being like everyone else, but is an American car rather than just a European car. So it does have that, and the fact it's got a naturally aspirated V8, and at best it's going to have a supercharged V8 as well. But for my money, it's lost a fair bit of its identity, to be honest. And yeah, now Aston Martin really is the only high-powered front-engine rear-wheel drive car manufacturer out there, which is a bit of a shame. But at least it means Aston Martin is even more special now. But yeah, I do miss Corvettes being their own thing, really, which I guess is only really an opinion. It's not a fact, but it is something that's a little bit disappointing on my side, even though this is no doubt a great car. and I'm sure plenty of people have wanted this vehicle in this game for a long time now, and I am glad to see it in this game because it is a fun car to drive, and it's no doubt going to provide some fun upgrades to it as well. And also I'm glad that it's the second car to be added in this game from this decade. More cars from this decade, please. But yeah, just a shame that it's lost a bit of its identity, really. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.